Well,
When
Shawn,
I
I don't know if you know this, but critics hate movies, which is
yes,
which is why we spend every waking hour that's considered free time consuming cinema, because we hate movies. Either
Yeah.
that, or we're all paid by Marvel.
yeah,
That,
and my team knows that we are not paid by Marvel.
yeah.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times I've posted like, guys, if I had Disney fuck you money, you would know.
You would
Like,
know.
I promise you, you would know if Marvel was writing me checks. I would make it very obvious.
You're listening to All My Friends Are Movie Fans. I am Thomas Stoneham Judge, here to host conversations about what's new and relevant in film with my friends who are all movie fans. I still believe in heroes, but can we still believe in the MCU? In a world where the hardest choices require the strongest wills, we find the MCU struggling with their will to make hard decisions. Just because something works doesn't mean it can't be improved, so I've gathered friends to talk about the franchise that we all love. This podcast is our power, and with great power, there must also come great responsibility. We are going to hash out the pros and cons of the MCU, whatever it takes. I can do this all day, but my guests only have an hour. So, before we get started, does anyone want to get out? No? Then let's do it. The friends that are joining me on this episode are Toronto-based For Real critic and creator of Peer Reviews, Shawn Peer.
Hi there. Very excited to join this conversation. I'm excited to talk all things Marvel. Let's do it.
All things Marvel, let's go.
Yeah.
We also have another Toronto-based guest, a host of podcast Real Deal Cinema. We've got Ryan Guido.
Well, Shawn mentioned everything else I would want to say, so I'm going to say what Stan Lee would say. Enough said.
Enough said. There you go. We've got West Virginia-based film enthusiast Cameron Cole.
Just want to thank you 3000 for having me on, Thomas. Making my podcast debut here. A little nervous, but otherwise I'm excited.
I love that. That's a great line. And then, of course, LA-based film critic for Nerdbot and For Real co-producer Derrick Murray.
Yes, but I'm also a Playboy billionaire philanthropist, so got all those bases covered as well. Yeah.
The dream team. We might as well be our own Avengers, yeah? All right, guys. Well, we're here to talk about Marvel. I just want to start with a glass of whiskey. Thank you again to Alpine Distilling for this wonderful bottle that I just cannot stop promoting on my podcast. This is the Lafayette bottle. It is a fruit and cinnamon whiskey with natural flavors, and it is delicious. I love it. And until this bottle's gone, I will keep talking about it. And I'll probably talk about it after that too. So let's start with some basics on the MCU. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, as we all know, kicked off in 2008 with Iron Man. And there have been, by my count, 35 films so far and 12 TV series as of the recording of this. I think we have another one on the way, which is kind of exciting. Which is the one that we're on the verge of the release of is Daredevil, Born Again. So can't wait for that to come out. And there's a bunch of other projects coming out this year. Of course, Marvel likes to line up their slate. We already have trailers of things like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four. I believe Ironheart is supposed to go to Disney Plus this year, and then some other animated Disney Plus series later on. So obviously, there's always lots of Marvel to look forward to and plenty of Marvel to talk about that we have experienced. So I kind of want to start with everyone's history and experience with Marvel. I'll say for me, I was on the Marvel train all the way through the Infinity Saga. I loved the interconnectivity. I loved all the characters and the crossovers and cameos and everything. And then the culmination, of course, up to Endgame was fantastic. And I tried hanging on after Endgame, but I think there were some definitive moments where it's like, this is not going the way that I would prefer the MCU to go. And I just have to kind of respect the decisions that they're making and be happy for the people who are enjoying what's being produced now. So, Derrick, let's start with you. What's your experience with the MCU?
Yeah, so I've always been a comic book fan, probably not in the diehard way that I think most people would consider themselves. So I have read comics, I do own comics, and I'm aware of most of the characters that show up in these. I'm not I'm not I don't go as far as to be like, oh, that's not how it is in the books. Like, but I try to stay well versed enough to kind of know where they're pulling their stories from and where they're kind of, transitioning from a read medium to a film medium. And so I can remember seeing a lot of these for the first time in theaters. I remember watching Iron Man, and just kind of knowing vaguely, like, oh yeah, that's a hero, it's a superhero character, and really just kind of being blown away by what they were able to do in that film, and just how cinematic it was, how entertaining it was. It really reignited Robert Downey Jr., and just really set him on a trajectory that seems to not stop. So yeah, I've had a pretty strong relationship with the MCU. And I loved almost everything up until Endgame, and Endgame I think is a true culmination of just cinema. There's just an era of cinema that is an undeniable stamp on how we watch movies and how we experience film. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but with the MCU, like, that is a gift and a curse. They have literally revamped the way that people engage with cinema and how they think of movies, almost to a fault now. And I think that there's been a lot of things that I've really enjoyed since Endgame, and there's been a lot of things that I just want to throw in the trash. So we can definitely get into it, but for the most part, I've had a really strong relationship with the MCU. But I think recently it's been a little bit more touch and go, and I am starting to get a little burned, little
Mhm.
burned. Not gonna lie.
I hear it. I hear it. Ryan, what is your history with the MCU?
Similar to Derek, I think I've always been tied to the MCU, Marvel, and just their characters beyond that. Like I was someone who grew up on the original Spider-Man series, even the Fantastic Four, the 20th Century Fox movies that are now getting some kind of resurgence too a little bit. And I think before, as Derek mentioned, we the culmination up to Endgame was something that we've never seen before. To put it in perspective, no matter what the movie was, if it was an MCU movie, it was Friday night, it was IMAX, and I had at least 6 to 8 friends that we were getting tickets. I have all the tickets upstairs. I could pull them out, always the same seats, literally every movie. Captain Marvel, doesn't matter what it was in IMAX, it was first day, and we were going to be there, right? And since Endgame has happened, we've all felt that this massive fall off. It's to the point where it's like, yeah, I'll catch that, like, or I'll see it eventually. So I feel that crawl back to things like Daredevil getting potentially good reviews. There have been some glimmers of hope along the way. I'm hoping Marvel can get back on the train because, as I said, I've always been a fan, and I'm hoping it's very soon for myself at least.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Cameron, your experience in history with the MCU.
Well, I was never a big comic book guy. I did like video games a lot as a kid, so I can remember playing a lot of superhero video games and stuff. I was 15 when the MCU started, so I feel like I was right at the perfect age. But I missed some of the earlier ones in theaters. The year that I really got big into movies was about 2012. I got big into collecting DVDs and Blu-rays around that time, and that's the year I started going to the theater a lot more. So about 2012 on, I've seen everyone in the theaters now, and that's kind of really when I started getting into movies. And yeah, now there's probably not an MCU movie I'd miss, regardless of what anyone says. I'll be there for all of them.
Good. I love the dedication. That's awesome. Shawn, let's bring it home. What's your experience with the MCU?
All right. So for me, I was watching Marvel casually when it was in phase one, and then I would say 2015 with Avengers Age of Ultron is when that was the start of me watching the MCU and getting into movies in general. But for MCU purposes, it was also at that time. And ever since then, I've seen every movie opening night. And even with the Disney Plus shows, I've seen all of them. I'm caught up on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm looking forward to Daredevil. I'm gonna watch whatever next comes out. I'm a big MCU fan, and I've loved a lot of them. But like you guys, definitely some hit and misses. Um, but this franchise just means a lot to me, and regardless of where it goes, there's always gonna be a part of me that has a glimmer of hope that they're gonna figure something out. We are going on 5 years of this multiverse saga and it's still touch and go, but they've done it before, and I have faith that they'll do it again, regardless of who is in control, who's not, who's on screen, who's not. I feel like that's just the way you have to look at things. You don't want to be going into movies knowing they're going to be bad, or hoping for the worst. You hope for the best. That because when when a movie like that like hits like Endgame or Infinity War, it's magical. And I know we all know that feeling, and I want us all to feel that feeling again with Doomsday, with Secret Wars coming out. I've hope. I really do. Not a lot, but it's there.
I love the optimism.
I was just gonna say, the optimism in Shawn is like, oh, that's what we used to have hope, didn't we? We really did.
That's
It's
what that used to
hard.
feel like. Oh man, I missed that. Thank you for spreading a little bit of optimism among the group, Sean. Appreciate that. Um, so we all know, like in game, I think we all there's kind of that's like the focal point here with Marvel. There's before in game and then there's after in game, and so we know how significant the Avengers movies have been to our experience. But I kind of want to know what your standalone like individual hero, your favorite individual hero movie is. So Sean, which one is your favorite?
To me, my personal favorite standalone MC movie that's not the Avengers is Spider-Man No Way Home. It's my favorite. I do not think it's the best. I do prefer Winter Soldier or Thor Ragnarok on a technical standpoint, on a filmmaking standpoint. But to me, I just think about that opening night in December 2021 and the feeling, the anticipation, the excitement, the sitting in that theater, in a packed theater, when the reveals came out, when the cameos came out. I think about it all the time, and even when I rewatch the movie, I know people have said it doesn't have good rewatchability, and that may be true in some aspects, but when I rewatch those movies, um, and I see Andrew Garfield come out on screen or Tobey Maguire come out on screen, I just think it I just think about seeing that for the first time and the excitement, and it just makes me all giddy and happy inside. So that is my favorite standalone non-Avengers MCU movie.
Sean, I'm going to spam the internet with this optimism here. Like I'm going to take those clips and I'm going to promote the hell out of those because that is
Yes.
great. We need more of this in the world. Cameron, what is your favorite standalone non-Avengers MCU film?
See, I think I gotta go with Thor Ragnarok. Um,
Okay.
2013, Thor: The Dark World was probably arguably one of the worst in the whole series. So to rebound with Thor Ragnarok, I mean, we got a Hulk versus Thor like gladiator battle. It was just a lot of fun, great visuals and stuff. So gotta go with Ragnarok.
Yeah, that was an interesting because we were telling everyone that we read the Reign of Marvel Studios book or reading it and hearing how they had to kind of pivot for that one and kind of take a different direction and make sure that Thor stayed relevant and stayed
Yeah,
interesting to people. I think that was a big swing, especially considering my preferences in the MCU, which I'll get to in a
I
second. But
can't not mention Kate Blanchett as well.
Kate
Getting her as the
Blanchett,
villain,
yes.
big win.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think of all the MCU films, it was actually going to be one of my picks, but I'll change it. But I think of
Yeah, I had
all
to
the
back up
MC,
as well in case someone. Yep.
yeah. Well, and actually, I was gonna qualify Thor Ragnarok because I think Thor Ragnarok it might not be the best because it's got a lot of issues and how dumb Thor gets from film to film is pretty shocking. But when you want to talk about just rewatchability, like just feel good rewatchability, it doesn't matter where you start Thor Ragnarok. At any time, you're just like, oh, well, then this is what I'm watching now. Like you never just turn it off. Like it's so rewatchable, and that it does rank up there really high with one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. Derrick, we'll come back to you so you can give your alternative answer.
I will.
Um,
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Ryan, what is your favorite standalone MCU film?
Hmm. I got a couple of films in my mind right now. Okay. One
Okay,
of them I feel like a lot of people might bring up, but I feel like I gotta come in with a little bit of spice. Something that I don't think anyone else is gonna even think is anywhere near it. Okay.
let's go.
No one's ready for this. Okay. Iron Man 2. Okay. And the reason why
What?
Iron Man 2, okay,
Okay.
is Iron Man 2 is the first time we start to see Tony Stark become the Tony Stark he's gonna be at the end of Endgame, right? We start to see the fragments of this idea of Howard, the position that Howard has had on his life, who he is as a person. That movie does so many things wrong, but I've seen it like hundreds of times. Like maybe because back when I was watching it, there was like four movies in the entire MCU, so I just happened to see it 100 times in elementary school. But I just remember always finding it so remarkable how he has that moment with his dad and he's watching the footage and he's like he has all these like bad memories of with his father. And then we get to see the full footage and Howard talks directly to him. And it like that impact in that moment in the MCU, I feel is you can feel it throughout all the way into Endgame, where his character goes in Civil War, everywhere. I think it's very important. It's pivotal. Again, many mistakes with that movie. The villains are god awful. Like God knows what's happening with Whiplash and you know and Mickey Rourke and everything. But you know,
He's in a
and
different
Elon,
movie. He
yeah,
is he is
yeah.
in a totally
No, no,
different
no.
movie in Iron Man 2.
Because like
Yeah, but
compare it,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no.
But like I said, I had to come in a little bit of spicy. I was gonna go with like a Winter Soldier or something, but I feel like that's something everyone says, you know. Iron Man 2 has a special place in my heart, so I think I had to give it a little bit of love.
love that.
That's good. That's great. I'm also gonna go back to phase one, and I don't think this is that big of a like a hot take or a special selection, but I don't know anyone else who would choose it either. So, but every time I watch it, it just reaffirms my how much I love this movie, and it's the first Thor movie is just incredible to me. Like when I look at character development, that movie did such a great job taking this like self-centered, egotistical, god and bringing him down to earth and having him go through a very believable arc for what um you know uh growth and development and empathy for people and care for more than just himself and what he wants. That I think that movie did a really great story narrative arc for that character. And that's why I personally don't gravitate to Ragnarok. I can recognize that it's something that a lot of people like and enjoy in fun entertainment. But man, that dramatic element of Thor and I think the soundtrack for that film also really captivates my attention in that film. And music is something that sways me a lot in film. So I think that is a movie that just every time I watch it, just reminds me like, oh yeah, there was like a really really great foundation for this character. Um, and I think we just I dislike the sequel because I think a lot of that is lost. But then because of that, you have Ragnarok. So there you go. Yeah. So great picks, guys. Those are awesome. Good
Well,
selections
I
there.
didn't pick,
Oh,
just so
sorry.
you know, but it's fine.
You
It's
talked.
fine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Sorry, Derrick.
Yeah.
What
I'm
is
just I'm
your
trying to vamp. I'm trying to get the conversation going, and
You're doing a great job, Derrick. You're
he's
doing
just like,
great.
no, he doesn't get the pick. It's fine. It's fine. No picks for him.
No, Derrick, go ahead. Hit us with your favorite.
So look, there's obviously standouts, right? Like,
Yeah.
Winter Soldier's been brought up a couple of times. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a good one.
Mm.
The correct answer is obviously the Eternals. No, I'm just kidding. I actually I don't hate the Eternals either. No, so there's obviously when you talk about like the highs, you clearly have when they do try to I think when they break away from the superhero genre and they try to get into things that are a little bit more like political thrillers and family oriented type things, I think they do have a lot of heart packed into them. So with all that being said, for me, I I'm gonna take your black card again. And I'm gonna go with Black Panther. Um,
Good pick.
and it's not even necessarily the best. As I mean, I think there are other movies that are probably more rewatchable. But when we want to talk about the overall cultural impact of the MCU without uniting heroes, without giving you an Avengers, an Infinity Game, or an Infinity War, an Endgame, where you're just doing a standalone hero. I don't think anything has been more culturally impactful, more culturally represented, more unique, more just powerful, just in general, than something like Black Panther. We can go back and forth about the ending and the horrible goofy CGI battle or whatever. That's an MCU problem. It's not even a fault of Black Panther. But I just think there is so much there that uh, Black Panther is the kind of movie that survives generations, right? Like we grow up and we show that to our kids, and they're like, "That's my hero." Like they do the Wakanda forever, and I think those things are super powerful and really impactful, and you just can't trade that out. So yeah, my pick is Black Panther for sure.
Great pick. That is a really, really good pick. Every time I hear the story of like how Black Panther came together and the adversity that idea had, particularly in the early stages of MCU, where there's kind of this notion that women don't sell, action figures, so we can't make a movie
Neither
with
do
them.
minorities. Like
Neither
it's
do minorities, right? Like,
yeah. Look, we always have to remember that, like, as much as the MCU has kind of laid the groundwork for some diversity, like they're still very much a part of the Hollywood machine and have,
mhm.
but we had 6 films of white dudes before we ever started breaking away and kind of getting into some other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, guys, we are here to talk a little bit more in depth about the MCU and something that I want to preface this conversation for. So we're going to go into some rounds of buy or sell, right? I've been since we are on the other side of Brave New World having come out, and Daredevil's about to come out. We're all kind of like wondering what where the future of the MCU is going and what the quality of it's going to be. I think I figured that this episode would be a good opportunity to really kind of scrutinize the MCU's impact on culture and what we think about the status of it right now. So there are some headlines, there's some comments, there's some things on the internet that I came across that I want to pitch to you guys, and we're gonna like buy or sell them. So um we're gonna start with this one. And yeah, Cameron, I'm gonna direct this one at you first. Writer Ollie Bradley with Screen Rant published an article with a headline that said, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Avengers Endgame destroyed the MCU. And then there's a quote in the article: Avengers Endgame will forever be the benchmark that subsequent installments are expected to reach. If that is the case, then the prognosis is dire, as the bar is almost impossible to clear. So the buy or sell is buy or sell that Endgame was so good that it's a benchmark Marvel will never be able to reach again.
I mean, I can buy that maybe things might not ever get as good as Endgame again, but I think it's unfair to hold every single MCU movie up to Endgame. I mean, like, do you think Thunderbolts is going to have like the same impact as Endgame or something? I don't mean to disrespect Thunderbolts or anything, but yeah, I just don't think
The
it's fair.
Marvel Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a lot of movies are going for that kind of team up, like yeah, Suicide Squad type thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Yeah. Shawn, what are your thoughts on this one? Buy or sell, Endgame was so good that it's a benchmark Marvel will never be able to reach again.
I do buy that idea because that cultural, like the cultural impact that Endgame had. I mean, everybody saw that movie. It is the second highest grossing movie of all time. Everybody was excited for it. It was doing numbers that it still hasn't reached unless it's Spider-Man No Way Home. Um, Captain Marvel was making $1 billion. Ant-Man and the Wasp made 700 million. It was close to a billion. Like we're not seeing those numbers, and there are a lot of reasons outside of their control. It's a different audiences, different time, COVID and everything streaming. But I mean, I feel like even if Doomsday and Secret Wars are great, the buildup has just been so divisive and rocky that I don't know if we're gonna hit that benchmark. And if we do, I don't think it'll be for a long, long time, personally.
Yeah, I hear that. Ryan, what's your thoughts? Buy or sell that the Endgame was so good it's a benchmark Marvel will never be able to reach again.
Well, banking off what Sean said at the end, I'm gonna sell this idea. And what I'm gonna say is that let's think of it like a football season or even the award season, right? You can't start at the end. right? You have to have that monumental buildup. We need to feel the time go by, right? So of course, something like Endgame being the benchmark is because it's the first time we've ever seen something like this happen, right? I feel like MCU right now is falling into the same trap that the DC Extended Universe had. They were trying to play catch up, trying to build to an Avengers Endgame without having those small pieces along the way. You need to have the bumps in the road. You need to have the, oh, what came out of Cannes, what came out of Sundance, what came out of TIFF. Like you need those buildups, right? You need those big blips, you need those big moments. And it needs to happen naturally. You can't rush it. So they're trying in a post-COVID world, right, to rush audiences back to that end game. And it's going to work for something like No Way Home because you're coming out of COVID and then boom, nostalgia level 500. Of course, I was there. I fell for it. I was there first day. I love that movie, right? But it works in its own little echo chamber. It doesn't work for if they were trying to build it to like Avengers Endgame and they're like, hey guys, Tobey Maguire's gonna be there, show up for Toby kind of situation. It's probably gonna work, right? But is it because of that monumental moment? Do we feel that event? It's not necessarily for that, right? So I think it's gonna take a long time, as Shawn said, right?
Yeah.
And they have time to build it naturally. For people who've been around long enough, they know that Iron Man was never an A character, right? When it comes to Marvel, who are the big guns? You got the X-Men, you got Spider-Man, and then Hulk was around, Fantastic Four was around. These are the big characters, the bankable stars. They've been like that in comics since the 60s, right? So Iron Man was able to build himself up naturally. That's all through Robert Downey Jr. They need to find a Robert Downey Jr. They have to do it naturally. Now, Marvel and it's like any company, they see the profits that came in. They're like, we want that and we want it now again. But they forget that they had humble beginnings. Feige had humble beginnings. Like these guys started off like literally driving people around on Hulk, sorry, on X-Men, the original X-Men, right? So you need to have that natural buildup. And I think that's the big thing.
Mhm.
Do I think it's going to take a long time? I do. Do I think they should allow it to take a long time? I also think that
Mhm.
is true.
Yeah, that's valid. Derrick, hit me by yourself.
I can't buy this fast enough. I yeah, I think sorry, I think Shawn makes a good point, and I actually buy into a lot of what Ryan was saying. Because I do think that somewhere down the road we're gonna find something else that, kind of unites us all. But I am pretty convinced that the MCU is not going to be the one to do it. I think whatever whatever they've created, they are incapable or unwilling to be able to create it again. Whether it's a desperate attempt to try to profit and get every movie to make $1 billion, whether it's a lack of creativity, whether it's a lack of a plan. One of the things that has always frustrated me about post Endgame, uh, one of the reasons I think most of our picks are all from, kind of the early phases or right around that time where we all felt like the MCU was unassailable. One of the reasons that has always been the case is the interconnectivity was always an afterthought. If you go back and you watch phase one, Iron Man is a very much a singular film. Thor is a singular film. The Incredible Hulk is a singular film. All of these movies in phase one, even when they do sequels, they're all telling their own individual story. They are individual stories first that happen to connect second, right? So even when you get this little Thanos that shows up at the end, like nobody has any, like it was very easy to just abandon that if they needed to. There was no like, these films are all connected. It was very much like, if we ever needed to connect these down the road, we probably could, but we're going to tell stories first. And one of the things they did very well is they used to bring, that's why all of our films have you have Taika Waititi, you have Ryan Coogler, you have these people that have real creative visions that come in and say, Kenneth Branagh, like, dude, you picked Kenneth Branagh, like, what is he doing directing a superhero movie? Like that is an insane pick for someone to direct a superhero film. But Marvel used to take risks like that. They used to bank on everything. And some of our favorite films, we forget, like, the Russos aren't that great outside of the MCU, but like these are music video directors that made one of the best political thrillers in the MCU. Like, that's a huge risk, and they used to do that. And what I think is happening now is everything has to fall in line with whatever it is the MCU machine has created. And they are literally just a machine that exists to crank out content. And I hate using that word, but that's what all of this stuff feels like. It no longer feels like these are singular creative visions from some of the best filmmakers and writers working today. It is, hey, here's a check, make this movie, make it this way. This is the budget. This is the way it should look. This is what you need to do at the end. And all they do is yell cut or action. Like there's no singular vision behind any of these. And maybe they'll wake up, but I don't have hope that Secret Wars is even going to do that. I think even when they bring back the Russos, I think the Russos won't have that same, like everybody's on a leash now and they're all just a part of the Disney machine. So yeah, I can't buy this fast enough. We have peaked at Endgame and it's never going to get better than that. And the last thing I'll say, because I know I had a lot to say about this, but like I understand that it is unfair to hold everything up to Endgame and say like, hey, it'll never be that good again, and we shouldn't do that. But like, you did this to yourself. like nobody did this for you. Like, this is your own fault. Like,
isn't that interesting?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are a self-fulfilling prophecy in this way, and you have no one to blame but yourself. And it sucks, but like I said at the top, like it is a gift and a curse to have something like Endgame exist, because it's a gift to us to say, wow, this is how good connected cinema can be. This is what a cinematic event could feel like.
See, I wish
that I could. It's a curse, because now all you're doing is you're just chasing the dragon, dude. Yeah. You're just an addict trying to do that over and over and over again, but you were never going to reach that first high, especially if you just keep taking hits of the same shit over and over and over again. Man, so yeah, I can't buy this fast enough.
No, seriously, I wish that I could sell this. I want to be on Team Ryan for this one, right? Like I want to sell it. But man, I have to buy that. I have to, at this point. Now I'm gonna leave the caveat that my opinion is subject to change. But right now I have to buy that it will never be as good as Endgame, because what I'm seeing online, and I think we'll get to it later on. I have to scroll through my notes to see if like I already have this penciled into the conversation, but I'm hearing and seeing a lot from fans like, you can't hold this up to Endgame. This is different than Endgame. Just, just like enjoy the movie, turn your brain off. It's an action movie, and I think that was very widely applied to Brave New World, which was not for me. I actually very much agree with Shawn's review of that movie. But I think that there is there's a reason we expect greatness. We expect in-game levels of greatness. Is because we know it's possible. Look, and I think I was talking to my brother about this. If I went to see Fast 15, or whatever they call it, and I walk out of that movie saying that was not intellectual enough, that was not a very smart script, like why would you expect that from the Fast and Furious franchise, right? Like there's never in any of the 50 movies that Fast and Furious has put out has ever been any indication that these are going to be smart or intellectual scripts. These are very clearly blockbuster action family, films like that, or at least family in the terms of Vin Diesel, right? Like that is just Fast and Furious. But we do have these expectations of Marvel films because we know what they're capable of. And I think that the machine is too big now. If you're trying to put out TV series, movies, I don't know the whole video game sector, and then toys, and like there's so many factors now, and there are already, like, in the first 3 phases, a lot of factors. Like the Infinity Saga is an anomaly. That is a very unlikely thing to have happened.
It's lightning in a bottle is what it is.
It really was.
Lightning in a bottle. Yeah.
And I love that we can encapsulate the Infinity Saga and like have a very clear beginning, middle, and end and be satisfied with that. And so I hope that they could do it again. I hope that whoever is pulling the levers at Marvel can recognize what was so great about the first 3 phases and get back to that. But I think that it's too much of a money maker now, and based off of what I saw with Brave New World, we're aiming for popcorn flick. We need butts and seats. We just need people to to like walk out saying that was a good time, and we're going everything, and then we're going to shoehorn in a lot of references to all the other movies that you may or may not remember. Shawn, I think you had something to say.
Well, because I was shaking my head, or
Yeah, I think I saw. I thought you were going to
oh
react to
no,
something.
because no, it's because I absolutely agree with you, and it's just sad to hear you say that Marvel is just expecting us to walk into these movies, turn off our brains, and just walk out and not think much of it. But you're right. And
Mhm.
that's what sucks because I just remember the feeling coming out of Infinity War and Endgame and No Way Home, and even the smaller movies where you're like, that was great. I want to rewatch it again. And I'm just not feeling that with these movies. I forgot about Brave New World the moment I walked out of it. And that's not what I
Yeah.
want out of these movies. I want the best possible outcome. I want to be excited. I want to know what's happening next. I won't give spoilers because maybe some people haven't seen it, but the mid credit scene or after credit scene for Brave New World did not make me excited. I was actually pretty annoyed with it, but that's a whole other
Wait,
conversation. But
wait, what was the mid-credit scene? I stayed for it. What was it?
can I talk about it? Are we
Oh
good?
no, actually no, never mind. Remind me later. But
There's
I'm like
There's
I'm trying to
there's
remember what
literally
was it.
nothing to spoil. Like it's not.
I feel like it didn't tell us anything we didn't already know.
Yeah,
Exactly,
it's
but
yeah, there's
exactly.
yeah. No, and I,
uh
I agree with you, Shawn, too. And I think part of my pessimism, if I'm being honest, you know what would make me sell this is if we got Endgame and we didn't get another MCU event until 3 years later.
that would have been, yes.
If
That's
you made me miss the MCU to where
Mhm.
I kept asking, when is the next movie? When is the next TV show? When am I going to get my MCU fix? And you made me wait 3 years before you drop something else. I don't care how bad that movie is when it comes out. I would sell this in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Mhm.
COVID kind of did that for 1 year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, they got
right.
lucky with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it it is.
COVID was like the best thing to happen to him,
Yeah,
honestly.
It's
it's
true.
it's not even March yet. We've had two MCU projects with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and
Uh,
Brave New World. We're about to get Daredevil in a couple of days, and there's still seven more or six or seven more projects in 1 year. I know they're just trying to dump out everything, and this a lot of this might be on the back burner, but that is insane because before Marvel at most would release 3 movies a year. That is 3 years worth of projects in 1 year. It's insane. I
it,
don't, oh my God.
it is insane. And I mean, I could do a whole nother podcast about Disney and their oversaturation model because this
Disney
isn't just a
Plus. Yeah.
Marvel issue. This is a Star Wars issue. This is a
It's a
Disney
Disney issue.
animation. It's
It's a
a
Disney
whole
Yeah.
issue.
the whole
Yeah.
Disney umbrella is just oversaturation, and I don't know how they're not understanding that. But we'll move on. Okay. So there's another article that I came across. And Ryan, I'm gonna direct this one at you first, okay? Armando Tinoco published an article in Deadline recently, and the headline was Deadpool creator calls for Marvel's Kevin Feige to get off the mound after Captain America Brave New World box office crash. He's spent. This is beyond a trend, it's become a norm. If this was sports, Feige would be removed. Marvel brand is like Dodgers, Lakers, Yankees, Celtics. Sorry. Coaches that win championships are removed a year later when the results are disappointing. Now I know we have some sports people here. Ryan, I know you're one of them. So I'm gonna aim this at you, and then let's talk sports, I guess, for a moment. Buy or sell
Oh,
that Kevin Feige has run his course and is no longer a benefit to the MCU team.
okay. Okay, I'll buy this. I want to sell it, but I'm the only one that sold last time.
Oh
I'm
no,
gonna
it's okay.
buy
Buy
it
or
just
sell
for
however
this.
you want.
Okay, I'm gonna be mid. I'm gonna be in the middle. Okay, I'm too nice though. This is why I'm not a CEO and I'm not in the boardrooms. But the way I see it, okay, is I'll make two comparisons, right, in sports. You look at a guy like Bill Belichick, right? You look at the history of the Patriots dynasty. The moment they stopped winning, despite all the success they had before. Robert Kraft said, "Okay." The owner said, "It's time for you to go." He fired him, right? And he had all the success. The Patriots went from a nothing organization to one of the greatest dynasties we've ever seen in sports, right? We've seen it happen time and time again. But we also saw something like Steve Jobs. They kicked Steve Jobs, essentially a coup out of Apple. He leaves. Apple sees some of the worst, like its worst run in the history of its company. He comes back, mega resurgence, and the rest is history with the iMac and the iPhone and everything else. So do I feel like Figgy has kind of overstayed his welcome a little bit? Yes and no. I feel like he's gone to the point where he feels he's untouchable, right? Or at least that's how it makes it seem like when we hear him like at every project. Maybe he needs someone else alongside him, helping him out. Maybe they need more people in that room making the decisions. Or maybe he just needs to ultimately be, laid off, fired, replaced. I think it's somewhere in the middle because he clearly understands and has a care to a certain extent. I don't know how much Disney's forcing his hand. If he gets fired, does Disney replace him with someone worse, right? That's the problem. Is the grass
Ooh,
greener? We don't know. Because he did bring us success. He brought us Endgame. He brought us the entire Infinity Saga, right? So what happens if you get rid of him, right?
that's a good
That's
point.
the concern I have. So
Yeah.
just for the sake of arguments, because right now I'm playing both sides, I'm just gonna say bye. Let's say they replace
Okay.
him, and I'll throw it to everyone else and see what they think.
Yeah. Hey, Derek. So hearing this sports analogy, buy or sell that Kevin Feige has run his course on this team.
I want to buy this. I really do. Because I do think there's some of that. I think some of that creative juice kind of been spent. Um, but I'm actually going to sell this. And the reason I'm going to sell it is actually because of something Ryan said too, is and his sports analogy is like spot on. Like you're absolutely right. Like if this was sports, like yes, he would absolutely be canned. It doesn't matter the dynasty they had before, like you're out. Every great coach, every great player has always been traded like that. That in any sports, anything that you see, like legacy doesn't. It only matters for as long as you're making them money. And once you stop, then you're out, right? So, and the film industry
Yeah.
generally works the same way. But the reason I want to sell this is because, and actually Ryan touched on this a little bit, but I'm not convinced that the blame is on Feige himself. Just like the misogynist cries to fire Kathleen Kennedy as if she is some unwieldy ruler over the Star Wars franchise. I don't place a lot of the blame on them. Previously, sure, of course, like they got to own whatever it is they're doing. But I genuinely believe that it is the Disney overlords that are driving what is happening. They are the ones that are producing content, not films, not cinema, not great television. They are producing content to generate profit for their shareholders. And I just don't hold Feige responsible for that. And so I think there's some hand tying going on. I think there might be some genuine creative things that he might still have in his back pocket that they are just not letting him pull out because Disney wants to mine this for all it's worth. And so, if anybody's to blame, it's Disney that's going to run the MCU into the ground. It's Disney that's going to run Star Wars into the ground. And holding people like Kennedy and Feige responsible for one of the most cutthroat, profit driven companies in the entire world. I know we all love the happy Mickey Disney's magic, but like, bro, they're ruthless. Like, they're
Mhm.
one of the most ruthless cutthroat businesses ever. Just try to put anything Disney related in your YouTube video and see how fast an actual lawyer calls you. Like, they don't mess around. So yeah, I'm actually I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna sell this.
Fascinating. All right, Shawn. I actually don't know how into sports you are, but hearing this analogy, do you buy or sell that Feige has run his course on this team?
So I'm a big hockey fan and I'm a big Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and I don't know how much you guys are going to understand this, but they've had the same they have a head coach, Mike Sullivan, and they won the first 2 years he was head coach. And they've slowly been getting worse, and now they're at an all-time low, worst in 20 years. People have been saying to fire him for years. They still haven't done it. So well, there's the Bill Belichick analogy where they do it right away, and then there's people like the Pittsburgh Penguins where they don't, no matter how bad they get. But for the MCU, I think Derek and Ryan both make good points, and I do have feelings on both sides. But I'm gonna take the side of buy this, and it really hurts to say because Kevin Feige is at the head responsible for some of the best cinematic experiences of my life and some of my favorite movies of all time. And I would hate to see him fired after everything he's done, but I just think we're in a new era. I think there are different expectations. And while I do believe that there are Disney people on top of Kevin Feige telling him what to do and he may not want to do that, I do think that the MCU overall might need to go in a new direction because seeing Robert Downey Jr. come back and the Russo brothers come back, I feel like Kevin Feige was a big reason why they came back, and I feel like if somebody new was at the head, they might have taken it in a different direction for better or worse. We're never gonna know, but I just think the MCU just overall just needs something new
Hmm.
and a new direction to go in and someone with a new vision. And I do think maybe someone with him would be a good idea too, like Ryan said. But if I have to pick, buy or sell that Kevin Feige should be the one should go, I would like to see him go and just see what happens because right now financially and critically the MCU is at an all-time low. Brave New World just had a top three, I believe, worst drop-off in MCU history. You can't be having that. Like we're a year away from Doomsday and Secret Wars. You got to get people excited. And if you can't do that with a Captain America movie, with a character you've been building up since the end of Endgame, that's going to be your Captain America. You can't get audiences on board still. Something has to change.
Hmm.
And maybe it starts at the top.
Interesting points.
Well, let's
Cameron.
just
Oh,
just to be fair though, before let's call Captain America Brave New World what it really is, and it's a backdoor sequel to The Incredible Hulk. Just
Literally,
want to
yeah.
make sure that's on record. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah, no, I mean it's I think every yeah, no, I totally get that. I think that's what a lot of people have said about that about Brave New World, but it is what it is. Cameron, um what do you think? Buy or sell that Kevin
Um,
Feige has been on this team
I
long enough?
think I'm going to sell this mainly because of who it's coming from. I don't know if I have the story 100% right, but didn't I just see that Rob Liefeld is maybe he didn't get invited to the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine, or
Yeah,
didn't
no,
get
you're right.
invited to the wrap party, and he like severed ties with them, right? So I feel like it's just coming across like they had a breakup. He's not happy. He's just dissing them, and so I feel like that's kind of what it seems like to me.
He's
That's
salty, bro.
valid.
He's super
think
salty.
Oh
he's
yeah.
salty, and then he's just at this point he's just like screw them, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, at the same time, though, I do feel like it's a little extreme, though. Um, and like one of the others mentioned, like, do we even know if whoever replaces him could even do any better? So
Hmm.
I'm just gonna sell this. I think Kevin's still the man for the job.
Yeah, guys, I actually think that I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna change the verbiage a little bit. I think Kevin should have retired by now. I think Kevin should have gotten to the end of Endgame and then sailed off into the sunset. I mean, that's what I probably would have done. Which I don't know, probably makes Kevin a better person than me. But yeah, I mean, the Infinity Saga was just so perfectly packaged. I don't know if I would have gambled my career on trying to continue that. And I think there are very, very few ways that they could move forward in a cohesive and in a positive way. And I think what we're seeing now is the cracks that come with pretty much every other studio who's tried to build a cinematic universe. Now Marvel is being subjected to those things, and I don't know if Kevin knows how to navigate that. Just like how I don't think any other studio has figured out really how to navigate it outside of the lightning in the bottle that phase 1 through 3 had. Um, so I don't know if I would use the word fired, but I would have retired. So yeah, let someone else deal with the bureaucracy and the complexities now that is the mouse pulling strings on what was a really autonomous studio. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Let's move on to the next one. And this is going to I'm going to direct this one at you, Shawn, because this has to do with your content. So we published your review on TikTok, and there's a wide variety of
Yeah.
comments. But I pulled one. There's a comment on your review that said because you were not a fan of Brave New World, and you were very articulate about that in your review. And so one comment said, L take. The script was great. It wasn't the best like most Marvel films, but it was good and decent. Based on how Marvel has been doing, this is a pretty good movie. And what caught my attention about this comment was that last statement, based on how Marvel has been doing, this is a pretty good movie. So, buy or sell, Shawn, that critics need to expect less from Marvel in order to enjoy their entertainment going forward.
I'm gonna absolutely sell that idea. I don't think we should be dumbing Marvel down to the Fast and Furious franchise, like you mentioned before, just because that's how some of the movies have been lately. We have seen what Marvel is capable of. Black Panther has been nominated for Best Picture. Angela Bassett almost won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. We have seen how great Marvel can be. They have been critically acclaimed several times, dozens of times even. Just, they're making bad movies right now. They're flip-flopping a bit, but I don't pick and choose based on the way the wind is blowing. If they make a good movie, I think it's a good movie. If it's bad, I think it's bad. But I don't think I'm gonna dumb Marvel down to their mindless popcorn flicks turn off your brain. No, because I know what they can be, and we all know what they can be. So let's expect more from them. And when they make mediocre movies like this, let's call them out on it. Let's tell them this is not what we want. This is not what we think you should be doing. And we know you can do better because we have seen you do better. So fix it, please. We say this because we want it to be better. We're not hating just to hate. We want to see better movies come out of this. We want to see Marvel succeed the way they used to, and they're just not. And it's just more frustrating than anything. So yeah, I'm not gonna
Mm.
I'm gonna hold my ground, and I'm not gonna expect less from Marvel and just accept when they make a fine movie. Absolutely not.
John is taking us to church on this one. You better
Dude,
preach, bro.
I'm over here just like, preach, preach, son.
Oh, Ryan, let's get your take on this. Buy or sell that critics need to expect
Okay,
less from Marvel to enjoy their entertainment going forward.
definitely sell. Also, just reading the comment, okay? One thing critics or anyone who posts their opinion online, even if it's a letterbox review, they have to stand up on business. They have to stand on what they say. This person does not know what they want to say. They go from script is great to it was good and decent. Okay, so now we've said three different things. And then they say that then it's a pretty good movie. So they can't even come up with some kind of criticism and evaluation and stick it out.
Mm.
So if they can't do that, how do they expect a critic who actually cares for the quality and entertainment, both aspects of it, to have the same kind of fire and fury as their comments? You're coming in with something as strong as L take. Like, I'm sorry, this is some like no offense to the person, but like some 12-year-old most likely has not experienced everything. And like at the end of the day, uh, like you can turn your brain off, but then you can also realize when hey, I enjoy what's happening from this point of view. I'm enjoying what's happening from this point of view. And you shouldn't have to decide, okay, for this movie, I'm not going to be critical at all just because it's Marvel, just because it's Fast and Furious. You can say I enjoyed it, but you can also recognize it's bad. So critics are the reason why we get people like Denis Villeneuve, who always name drops IndieWire when he's talking about why he's built Dune the way he has, right? Like you get these kind of people who go from critics also to directors because they know what I don't like about a movie, and this is what makes a good movie. Critics are important. You shouldn't necessarily fight them and expect less from them just because you don't agree with them. I think that's the big thing here.
I think we're all preaching on this one. Cameron, Cameron, buy
Um,
or sell. Critics need to expect less from Marvel if to enjoy their entertainment going forward.
I might pass this one off. I'm gonna have the greatest answer, but I will say that I know, Marvel, the filmmakers, they're trying to make the best movie they can. I don't think they want to feel like critics or audiences should have to go in expecting any less. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if someone else wants to take over.
Yeah, Derrick, we're gonna
Okay. No.
let me get my tambourine. Let me
Yeah.
get my thing.
All right. Let me try not to break
What's
stuff.
all my
Good.
church apparatus so that I can like
Okay.
really get into this response.
Yeah, so I can't sell this fast enough. I listen, I think that uh this is a very complex question that actually kind of requires a little bit more of a complex answer. But particularly when it comes to something like Captain America: Brave New World, there is a difference between someone who watches maybe 12 movies a year and only 4 of those in theaters, and critics who, like we've all experienced, right? We watch 300, 400 movies a year from all around the world, from retrospectives to current to indie to, like, we consume cinema in ways that most people don't. And when we do that, we are just clearly going to watch movies differently. But that's also because we are looking for different things. So nobody, as far as I, like, genuine critics, I get it, there are a lot of bad actors out there, there are a lot of influencers that they're not critics, they're just regular fans that come out with bullshit opinions and tweet them, get, retweeted a billion times, and that's what we think criticism is. I'm not knocking that, that's all well and fine if that's what you want to do, but that's not film criticism. That's not, there's separation there, right? So very few actual critics go into a movie thinking, I can't wait to rip this apart because it's not Shakespeare. Like, we don't think that way. And I know that it feels like that because Rotten Tomatoes aggregates it and skews stuff and doesn't actually take in the nuances of what we actually say. So an example I always give is, like, if you give a film 3 out of 5 stars, Rotten Tomatoes will essentially decide which version of that 3 out of 5 it's going to fall. So if they decide that your review leans more negative, they'll just take the negative, aggregate it into the rotten, but they can also take that exact same review and highlight the more positives and then rank that as a fresh. Like, you don't get to decide as a Rotten Tomatoes critic where your review goes based on rotten or fresh. And so it skews the way that people think. And so everybody just looks at it and says, well, all critics hate movies. And it's like, but that's just not what we're doing, right? And so when it comes to something like Brave New World, for us, I feel like when I go in to watch Brave New World, I'm not necessarily expecting something like, I'm not expecting Shakespeare. I'm taking it for what it is. But what it is a bad movie. I don't know how to explain it any other way. Like, it's a bad movie. It's hacked to bits. It's edited like shit. The script isn't good. The story makes no sense. Sam is a side character in his own movie. The way that this is shot, it's just ugly. It's an ugly film. Like, no one can watch this and be like, wow, that's some of the best CGI I've ever seen. Like, shut it, get out of here. Get out of effects were better in 96 than they are in Brave New World. Like, kick rocks. Like, I'm sorry this is the only movie you're gonna watch this year, but like, it's just objectively not good in that way. And that's fine, but at the same time, when we take the MCU as a whole, like we've said, we already know that the MCU can do better. So either you're not trying or you're just unwilling to give us something better. If you knew that you were going to hack this film a bit, this film had 6 writers on it. That is an insane amount of there are 9 different films in this movie because they just had to get it out. Versus if it tested really that bad, just hold it and wait until you can make a cohesive film. Like, you spent $200 million on a movie for what? It's not even a real movie. Like, those things, it frustrates me so much. And I think, to Shawn's point, like, it's not just that critics want to expect more. Audiences should expect more. You should demand more because you have 34 other films or 30 other films that demonstrate what they can do. Forget weighing it against Endgame. Weigh it against Iron Man and tell me Iron Man doesn't look better than Brave New World. Like, it's that movie holds up and it's almost 20 years old. Like, what are we talking about here? So yes, sell. I can't sell this fast enough.
I am going to agree with everything you guys said, and I'm also very avidly going to sell this. And there's a couple things I want to say about this. So can we start normalizing respecting other people's opinions and perspectives? Because a question that I want to ask, we're not going to have time for it here, but maybe if whoever's listening, whatever comment section there is, maybe you can put your own response to this. But the question that I have is, are we at a point with the MCU where critics have one expectation and audiences have a different one. And it's just we've just diverged there, right? Maybe there are audiences who just want to go for a popcorn flick and just want, the latest big, action-packed movie because it's Marvel and that's what they went to the last Marvel movies for. It happened to be able to appease everyone. And maybe then there are critics that are seeing the narrative excellence and the technical excellence of the last ones and wanting that but not getting it. I see how there might be a divide here. Between what one audience wants and what another audience wants. And when one audience voices their opinion about why a movie didn't meet their expectations, the other audience then says you're wrong in like the most aggressive way, like L take. And, and I have gotten much more active about saying this wasn't for me, right? I'm not going to say, you shouldn't have enjoyed Brave New World. If you enjoyed it, I am so happy that you felt that you got the value you wanted out of your money. That is awesome. And I wish that was more normalized. I think everyone should have their opinion. Everyone deserves to have their opinion. If you love a movie, great. If you did not have the greatest time with it, great. And be able to respect that. Have the world can operate where you have your opinion and respect someone else's. So that's like the first thing I have to say about this comment. But the other thing that I think about a lot in this topic is when people say go in with low expectations. Just lower your expectations, you'll come out happy. And I think Shawn and a couple of you guys have already alluded to this. No. That is not something that I do when I go to movies. I don't lower my expectations to the very bare minimum just so that it can meet this low barrier and then I can find some semblance of happiness from it. Like, no, I want to have great, like reasonable expectations, and then I want them to meet those expectations and hopefully exceed them. And I don't think that should be weird. So I think about that a lot. I hate that idea of like just going with low expectations. Marvel, and we've already said before, Marvel has shown us that they could do great things, right? And so that's where my expectation level is at. I think that's what's reasonable. Derrick, you said it. Okay, don't compare Brave New World to Endgame, but what is the equivalent? Iron Man. And you hold it up to Iron Man, it does not hold up. Right, not at all on the technical level. Now, if you just enjoyed the action, if you went just to have some popcorn and you're on a date or whatever, like fine, that's what you went for, and that's great. I went for narrative prowess, right? And I don't care if that's not what most people went for. Like that's what I've come to expect from Marvel. And so when I go into a Marvel movie, that's the brand that I have uh gravitated to, and that's what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't have it, I'm going to respect the work that I appreciated about the film, but Shawn, like you said, I'm going to call out the things that I think could have been improved. And that's the work of a critic, guys. We don't, like Derrick said, we don't just want to hate movies. We want to love them. We really do.
If you just as a side note, because I know we got to go, but like,
yeah,
if you do actually read reviews and you go beyond the headline, you'll see that most of our stuff is actually pretty nuanced. Like, unless it's Megalopolis, where that movie just deserves to be dragged through the mud. Like, even for all the criticisms because I really did not, like, I gave Brave New World like 2.5 stars out of 5. But like, there are compliments to the film too. Like, I articulate things that I genuinely believe could have made this movie better that are absent from it. So it's never just like, this movie sucked, you should hate it, and if you loved it, you're wrong. Like that, if you actually read real critic reviews, like they don't actually do that. But again, that's a side story for something else. But like, I would encourage you to actually engage with it, because our responsibility is like Ryan said, like, yeah, we have to stand on it. Like, if I'm going to make a statement of the things that I've said here, like, I am now responsible for those things. Whatever I've written and I put out into the world, like, I have to stand on that. So I have to be able to defend it. And that's all well and fine. But I have friends that I trust and I love their movie opinions, and they loved Brave New World. Cool, man. Like, I love it. Like, great for you. Like, that's awesome. I didn't, but fine. We can live in the same world. It's okay. Like, I'll never watch it again and you will. And that's where the argument ends. Like,
pretty much. Guys, I have more things we could buy or sell. We could buy or sell for days, right? But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're at the end of our hour. I really appreciate you guys joining for this conversation. And you know what? I'm going to have to do this again because there's always stuff to talk about with the MCU. And I just hope that the next time that we do this, we have higher spirits about the status
Come
of
on, Fantastic Four.
come on, Fantastic Four, come on,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Daredevil. Look,
Thunderbolts.
please.
Yeah.
we
We're all
have
rooting
high
for you.
hopes. We really do. But we're gonna wrap up with an exit question. So I'll go around and give me your plug, your outlets, whatever content you're working on, or anything that you want to plug, and then answer this question. Um, which unlikely blockbuster franchise should Marvel cross over with to save the MCU? I'm gonna start. And obviously you can find our content in this episode, of course, on thisisforreal.com, for real spelled FORREEL. Connect with us on social media. All the links will be in the description. And I mentioned it earlier, but how fun would it be if you want turn your brain off fun? Let's cross over the MCU with Fast and Furious, where the fast
How dare
where the
you?
where
How
the
dare
Fast
you?
team teaches a fractured Avengers team about the power of family, and it's revealed that Dom Toretto is fluent in Groot. Ryan, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my podcast, Real Deal Cinema, and which you can find on Spotify, and you can always follow me on Letterboxd at RyanG98. And I'm glad I got to go first because I had a good answer. It was unlikely up until about a few days ago, where now it's probably incredibly likely. But James Bond is 100% going to be crossing into the Marvel Cinematic Universe any day now. Okay. And it'll be like every variation of James Bond via portals. They're going to CGI bring back Sean Connery. They're going to do it all. They're going to do it all. And they're going to all come back. And it's going to have like 6 spin-off shows on Disney Plus crossover to Amazon Prime. And yeah, that's the only way you can save it. I think more content. Like I don't know about you guys, but I've always wanted a Groot and Daniel Craig plushie. Like where there's
Yes.
plushie together, or Funko Pop, like a little action Funko Pop of both of them together. Like, come on, that's how you save the MCU. That's
Look,
just my
obviously,
opinion.
toys are the number one priority here, guys. We have a great toy opportunity here. I love it, Ryan. Now you're thinking like a Disney exec. Uh, Cameron, what's your crossover? Yeah, what's your crossover idea?
Just give me Jurassic Park. Dinosaurs are running wild, eating people, and who can stop them? The Avengers. But if anyone wants to follow me on Letterboxd or Twitter, it's just Cameron Cole, two N's. I'll gladly follow anyone back. And I also wanted to mention that in preparation for this podcast, I've been reading this book. So if you're a fan of the MCU, I'll definitely check it out. A lot of cool stuff in there.
Yeah, he inspired me to read that book as well. And definitely, if you want really interesting, in-depth behind the scenes information from the sources that were there, they did a lot of really great interviews and got a lot of really good insight onto what was happening behind the curtain. So yeah, good pick on the book, Cameron.
Also, Hell Hydra.
Shawn, where can people find you?
All right, people can find me on For Real's TikTok account. Obviously, I do movie reviews, and we'll see if the next one I make has the same interaction, engagement like Brave New World, because it's a lot of fun looking at those comments and seeing what people's opinions are. You can also find me on Letterboxd, Sean Peer 13. Uh, yeah, and I think that's it for the plugs. As for the franchise, I think the MCU should connect with. I was thinking about it a little bit. I do think the Transformers could work a bit. They're both big
Mm.
franchises. I could see it working. Autobots, Decepticons, Avengers. I can see a universe where that's happening, you know. They're very similar if you think about it.
I love it. There's potential there for sure. Also great toy opportunities there as well.
Oh yeah.
Derrick, let's wrap it up. Where can people find you? What's your answer to the question?
Yeah, so you can find me at nerdbot.com. All my reviews are there. You can find me on pretty much all socials, including Letterbox at DRock Comedy. It's DROK Comedy. And guys, the only right answer, obviously, is when the MCU hierarchy is about to change and you just bring in The Rock. That's no character. No, you just
No
just
franchise,
bring
just
in
the
The
one
Rock.
person.
just as a brand,
Yeah.
and you just bring him into the MCU, and that's it. Everything's saved, and we're good. Done.
The other answer I was
Yeah.
considering was you just make a Marvel vs. Capcom movie.
Yeah,
There you go.
You have to make a good Street Fighter movie first.
Yeah.
And I have actually sat through Legend of Chun-Li. We are a very long way off.
Yeah,
From a
but,
good. Side note, if you
That's
want to read
tragic.
an absolute wild story, read the making of the original Street Fighter. Holy shit, it's incredible. That is filmmaking at its most chaotic. It's amazing. Yeah. Makes me love the film, actually. But anyways, that's
Great stuff. Oh man, one more time. Thanks guys for joining. This has been All My Friends Are Movie Fans, a For Real original series. If you're a movie fan, we should be friends too. Connect with us at the links in the description and tune in again next time.